on our own. Hello, people.
What's up, Trash Talkers? Here at Veteran Trash Talk, we actually vet our sponsors. We don't just take their money and run like a butter bar lieutenant lost on the land nav course. Are you finally ready to plant your flag and claim your territory? Maybe it's time to use that VA loan to buy a home. Or hell, maybe you're looking to refinance and put some extra cash in your pocket for more questionable life decisions. Either way, the Veterans Mortgage Source, powered by Canopy Mortgage, has your six. Look, buying a home or refinancing can feel like getting overrun on a bad op. Chaotic, confusing, and full of obstacles that make no damn sense. That's where Corey and his team come in. They're like the QRF of home loans, ready to pull you out of the chaos and guide you to the best program for you. And trust me, they'll answer all your questions. Yeah, even the dumb ones. Whether you're a salty vet or fresh out of barracks still trying to figure out where your TA-50 went. Great service, solid rates, and a team that actually understands the military life. That's why all of us here at Veteran Trash Talk trust them to do right by every veteran and their family. Ready to lock it in? Give Corey a call or shoot him a text at 808-699-7874. That's 808-699-7874. Don't wait. Unless you like overpaying and getting treated like an FNG. The Veterans Mortgage Source is powered by Canopy Mortgage, LLC. All loans are subject to credit and property approval.
What's up, Trash Talkers? What's up, Gruntworks Nation? We are live for the second most important show ever. All right, so if you watched just 2 weeks ago, that was the most important show. And now we're on to the second most important show of your financial life when it comes to home buying, home selling, home refi, or whatever. PCS. All right, moving in the military is difficult, but we have your one-stop shop and all your answers right here today. So with us today, we have Megan Trenton from Armed Forces Across America and Corey Doe from PCS to Paradise and Veterans Mortgage Source powered by Canopy Mortgage. He's so special. He's got two companies, all right? But I think Megan has two companies too. So Megan, what are your two companies?
Yeah. Well, three. So I have my real estate team, and we actually just got everything in compliance and dialed in to bring that nationwide alongside of Armed Forces Across America, which is a national military relocation company that I own. And then I own a little side company that's just in Arizona called Collaborative Renovations. We run everything through a GC. So when sellers in Arizona that we're working with require repairs or updates on their home, we will handle those upfront for them and bill them out of their proceeds at the end of the sale.
Oh, awesome. I didn't even know that. That's cool. Surprised that Dave never told me about that. Well, I'm not surprised. So anyways, Corey, you own two companies. What's the difference between PCS to Paradise and the Veterans Mortgage Source?
So PCS to Paradise, we're building out slowly. The goal of that is just to help with moving and connect people with resources at different hubs throughout the country. Veterans Mortgage Source is all about VA loans, national stuff, everything you need to know about the VA loan you can find over there.
All right, great, perfect. So those of you watching for the first time, welcome. Got a good solid start to the viewership here. This is a show that you get to meet Megan and Corey virtually, right? You get to see them, you get to hear them. They're real people, then they are huge advocates for the veteran community. Corey is a veteran. Megan is married to a veteran. And they are a huge part of our family, and we do everything we can to make it as easy as possible for our audience at Gruntworks and on Veteran Trash Talk to get things squared away in every aspect of your life. We like to empower veterans. We don't like to just, we want to fix and help veterans. No, we want to empower you. All right, empower you to make the right decision because you have the right information. And that's exactly what this show is to get you the right information and empower you to make the right decision, especially when you're PCS and buying a home. Do you want to live on base? What do all the mortgage rates mean? And we covered a lot of that last week with interest rates, refining, what the VA loan is, how you can use it. We're going to focus more today on Megan's company, Armed Forces Across America, which I hear just helped out another veteran going to Fort Gordon. We won't name or active duty person going to Fort Gordon and connected them with Corey. So Megan, talk about Armed Forces Across America, and I don't know, maybe go through, obviously we don't say the name, but go through what just happened with that that active duty person from Fort Gordon.
So, yeah, that was actually swip swapped. So Corey actually was in contact with the people, and it really goes back and forth all of the time, right? So Corey got contacted by somebody who was going over to Fort Gordon in September. They needed a home loan, and a lot of times people will start with lenders first. But it's going to be impossible for him to help that person all the way through the closing table if they are connected with an agent who's maybe brand new, doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't have the support, and can't properly guide them. It happens all the time. So he calls me and I connect them with our agents who are experienced not only in real estate, but also specifically in working with buyers and sellers in the veteran community or military community to make sure that they are with vetted people. And then vice versa. Whenever I get people, I need to also make sure that they're not with lenders who are going to jack up their interest rate, like, cash in on them, all of that. So I make sure that I put them with a trusted lender, which is Corey. So it's two people operating within integrity to get the job done.
That's awesome. And then to get the job done, we have to cover a lot on our signature show, the Trash Talk Hour, when it comes to either a business for profit or nonprofit. A business has to make profit, even if they're nonprofit or profit. Otherwise, they're not a business anymore, and they can't do what they're doing. We like veterans, and a lot of people like the word free. All right, I'm under the impression that Armed Forces America doesn't do anything for free. Yeah. However, you do your best to have the veteran or active duty person PCS at no additional cost. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, so essentially, and things changed a little bit since there was a lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors last year. So I'll just very briefly, all agents, all realtors, their compensation has always been negotiable since the dawn of time. However, a lot of the time, up until recently, it was widely accepted that buyers just would not pay their agents and it would come out of the seller proceeds. So now that is still very common practice where it's always negotiated in, but the amount and how it works is always negotiable deal to deal. But regardless, what we do is we connect them with our agents. And then we make sure that our agents on the buy side are negotiating their commissions, seller paid the vast majority of the time, depending on the deal. And then we make our money by essentially charging a referral fee. So yes, we are making money, but it is not at the cost of the buyer and seller. It is at the cost of the agents. And agents all around the country, they pay for leads all the time. They're paying for cold leads. You could be getting an agent who's never done a deal before and they drop $2,000 on a bunch of leads and they got your number. That's not how we work. We essentially get those leads organically from people that we trust, and we place those military buyers and sellers with people that we trust.
So not the sweet James of auto insurance that his billboards are now in LA,
No.
Arizona, everywhere, spending
Yeah.
lots of money. Okay, that's really good info to hear. Now, I wanted to cover something I saw on the news yesterday. When I watched my stock portfolios on pick your. This isn't political. It's Fox Business, all right, whatever. You can watch it on what is CNN Business as well, C-SPAN, all that kind of stuff. But the housing report for home selling came out yesterday, and what do these points mean? It says it's an average of about 4, and it's at 2 for July, and it's at 2.9. So home selling did not go as well, according to the national market, as expected. Is there what do you think the main drivers are of that, and are you seeing that in your market as well? Because markets differ, right?
Yeah. I think it comes down to really two things. I think it comes down to inexperienced agents and delusional sellers, just to be quite frank. There's a lot of sellers. The vast majority of the sellers that I even speak to are still not through the grieving process that it's not 2022 anymore. So they're still in the denial phase. They haven't gotten to acceptance. So we have a lot of sellers that are under the rationale of waived inspections and paid over the appraisal value and did XYZ 2020 through 2023 even, because the market was wild back then, since we had next to no inventory. We had next to no homes on market. And now the life cycle of the sale, people are starting to get ready to sell again, whether it's through PCS or whatever. And they said, well, since I did this back then, I don't want to give it away for free, and I'm expecting buyers to show up in the same way that I showed up 3 years ago, and it's not 3 years ago. So no matter how often agents and no matter how experienced the agent is, a lot of times we have these conversations and we tell them, hey, it's not 3 years ago. Hey, these are what the comparable sales all are in your neighborhood. Here's the best recipe for success. And a lot of sellers are still like, well, I just want to try. And so what we see, especially with inexperienced agents who maybe got into the game in that time, is that they don't have the knowledge base and the skill set to be able to communicate the negative impact that it has to their sale and to the market in general when you test the market and just try to give it a chance. So what we see is a lot of these houses hit the market overpriced because whatever reason they were stubborn, or the agents didn't have the skill set to bring them back to reality. And then you see these home prices way up here, and all of a sudden the market reports show these drastic price drops, or people that don't have to sell say, well, if I can't sell it for $100,000 over what I paid for it, then I don't want to sell it at all, and they take it off the market. So are the numbers for the reports not really boding well? Yes and no. It's not necessarily because the market sucks. It's because the market corrected and people don't want to accept that yet. And if people would just price at market value, we would see a lot more favorable numbers and a lot more balance.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know we covered maybe even a year ago or 2 years ago, we covered, should you sell a house by yourself, right? Do you need a realtor? And it's like, this is what comes from where you might have a really good realtor telling you this is what you need to do. And you, as the know-it-all of, real estate and the market, are like, no, this house is worth $500K. Well, go back to a basic economics class, because if nobody's paying you $500K for it, it's not worth $500K. So go get yourself a realtor, please. Every time I've done a transaction since I've known Megan, I've called Megan. I'm like, all right, what do I got to do here? And again, that's the point of this show. Meet Megan, meet Corey. Now, this one, a question would be more addressed to Corey, but on the home buying and selling, there was something about interest rates are too high, probably because of what people are trying to sell their homes for. So the home might be worth that, but with the interest rates, it takes people out of their comfortable range to pay for a mortgage if I'm paying at a 6% interest rate. And then the other thing I saw was people are locked in at their 2.1, 2.5, and they don't want to get out of that loan. So Corey, what is the fear there, or what should people be looking at when it comes to the interest rates in selling or buying when it comes to that?
I think Megan brought up some really good points. We like to tell kind of all our buyers when they're going out home shopping, 10% of homes that hit the market, they're in amazing shape. Everybody wants them. They hit the market, they're sold in a week. 45% of homes they're just not garbage homes. Nobody should buy them. They're in rough shape. They're out there. And the other 45% right now is delusional sellers. They're good homes, but they're overpriced, or you've got a seller that's just, not willing to come to reality. And the numbers you were talking about, 2.9 to 4, that's months of inventory, average months of inventory. So really what that tells you, like Megan said, that number doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means homes are sitting longer. And as more listings come on market, that's more months of inventory. As far as the kind of the rates, another thing you'll see too is, and I always like to clear this up with people, median home price drops. What does that mean? That doesn't mean homes depreciated. What it means is if you had 100 homes that sold, the median home price shifted lower. So people are buying the cheaper end of homes versus the more expensive end of homes. And that's a lot of times driven by interest rates. That's kind of where I think interest rates come in. It's not that home prices for, your home declined. Home prices are up. If you look at an individual home year over year, it appreciated by a few percent. But the basket of homes that are selling is on the lower end, and it's largely driven by affordability. And I think part of the problem with rates is people feel this lock-in effect. And that's kind of what has kind of gridlocked the market a little bit, is people are like, hey, I would rather upsize or downsize or move to a different part of town or a different state, but they have that mortgage that's kind of locked them in. One of the things we look at, especially if you bought your home, and I'm sure Megan does this math too. If you bought your home years ago, it has a ton of appreciation, and you're going to, sell that home. You've got down payment that you can bring into your next home. Yeah, the rate might be higher, but what is the actual difference in payment and lifestyle change that you're going to pay as you make that move? Because it might be, hey, our payment's super low, but we've got 300, 400,000 in equity, which means we could put almost half down on our next home. The rate's higher, but the difference in payment is only $300 a month when you look market, house to house because of that. And so I think people get kind of caught up in the number. They don't necessarily look at what I would always encourage everyone to do is look at the monthly payment. Like, why do you have I've heard people tell me, I'll buy once rates are in the 5s. Okay, well, what does that mean? Like, you just want to see a 5 on the interest rate, or do you have a payment goal? Because a lot of times too, when you do the math, depending on the price point of the home, going from a 6% to a 5% might be $150 a month difference in payment. In the 200, 300,000 range of a home, is $150 a month really what's keeping you from buying a home? Is that really the different, the driver there? And so right. I think the most important thing is run the numbers, see what your actual, what is your pain point in terms of payment, and then, go from there in terms of, should I make that decision to move or sell? And then I'm sure Megan would relay this too for the sellers out there. What I would encourage all of them is, hey, nothing's going to kill your ability to sell than overpricing it and letting it builds up a reputation like this home's 80 days on market. There must be something wrong with it. So people won't even come look at it anymore. And if you don't set the tone right on price and staging and getting it ready out the gate in the first couple of weeks, you've now set yourself up for failure down the road. And especially if you're a veteran that's PCSing, that can be really detrimental because you're thinking, okay, I've got to move in 3 months and you're shooting for the moon on your house. You want to get that done right, so you're not paying 2 payments or 2 mortgages or rent and mortgage on that move. So I think you have to work with somebody that knows what they're doing. And I have this conversation too. If you can hire an agent and you pay a few percent in commission, but that translates to 2 months faster sale, a 1% better price, you saved 2-3 mortgage payments that you didn't have to pay because the home is sold. You got a better price because they have a better network and they sold it quick. Like you come out the same or almost better, and you had way less stress.
No, that's a great point, and that's what I was going to talk about again. Why we do this show? Why are you watching this right now? Watching Megan and Corey talk about stuff that might be going in one ear and out the other, and like I don't know what this means, but I have a friend that's a realtor. I have a friend that's a loan agent, and yes, they are, and please use your friends. However, we know Megan, we know Corey very well. We trust them. If you're going to make a decision or questioning making a decision about refining, buying, selling, just call these people. All right, go to Armed Forces Across America. Go on VeteranTrashTalk.com. The links are on there. Scan those QR codes, and you'll get to them. And again, what Corey just said is what I love the most. Every transaction I've ever made with real estate or refining is I don't have to stress about it because I call Megan or I call Corey. I really don't. And those of you that know me, I'm not going to BS you. If I didn't think Megan helped me, if I didn't think Corey helped me, they wouldn't be on this show, right? So they're on this show for a reason. So Megan, back to Armed Forces Across America. We talked about it last week, how many people you've helped and how many people are in the queue. Just again, for those listening and watching again, from step A to B on let's go a PCS move. All right, what does Armed Forces America do?
Yeah, so depending on how they get our information, they basically call us and then they say, we're going from point A to point B. So for the sake of this conversation, we'll say they're going from Florida to Washington. Very first conversation we have is, do you have a home to sell? And are you wanting to buy? Before we even start setting them up with agents or having that discussion, we're trying to get a picture of what their actual goal is. Because again, if they're going somewhere for 1 year, if they're, going somewhere and they're going to be there for 1 year and then they're going to ETS, then the conversation is, okay, well, are you planning to stay there? Are you wanting to move? Because buying is not always going to be in their best interest. Now, if they're wanting to build a rental portfolio, it still might, but there's a lot of factors that come into play. So essentially, I am the one having that initial consultation call. So you'll be speaking directly with me. And we're really going to go through, it takes maybe 5-10 minutes, what your goals are and what your situation is. And then at that point, I'll say, okay, so if you need to sell and you're also wanting to buy, here's the agent that we have in that area. I'm going to set you up on a group text with them. Here's the agent that's going to be in the area that you're going to. I'll set you up on a group text with them. And then I'm going to want you to have a consult call with Corey. When they consult with Corey, he can speak to this, but he's not pulling credit right off the bat. He's kind of having that same conversation with them. What do you want your monthlies to be? Let's talk about the price point that is in that area versus what you're looking at. And he'll get them dialed in on the finance side. And then we also kind of do a backtrack of timeline. Like you're going in 3 months. So your agent is going to really realistically need to have your house on the market within the next 30 days. They will consult you with what needs to get done, give you a checklist. If you're buying in 3 months, you really need to be under contract at the very latest in like 60 days. So here's what that looks like. Do you need to pay off a credit card before that? Like whatever it is, we're setting them up with a very customized strategy to execute their goals.
Very awesome. Yeah, that's a great explanation. And again, we have a pretty solid viewership right now where it's been pretty steady. So probably have a few people watching for a long period of time. Ask your questions in the chat. We got a few more minutes. So with PCSing, one of the problems that I shouldn't say problems. I say one of the fears that a lot of active duty people have is, does my BAH cover, where I want to move? And is there any type of, program that you have where, like, again, I'm saying this in layman's terms because I know you do it, but are the realtors you connect them with, are they just some person on a platform that joined you, or is it somebody that understands that, hey, I'm an E6?
Right. So the majority of our agents actually are veterans themselves. So most of them have served or are military spouses of people who have served or are currently serving. Otherwise, the bare minimum that we do to hire agents is make sure that they have closed a minimum of 25 VA deals in the last 24 months. So they are routinely having these conversations and they speak the lingo, they understand everything. Also on our website, we do have a BAH calculator as well, just if people need quick numbers. And then Corey obviously will be the one to talk to them about their BAH and then also what their mortgage qualification is and see if that's in alignment. Also, what I would say to that is that's also very custom and strategized as well, because a lot of people have spouses who work full-time jobs. Sometimes it's a stay-at-home mom. So there's a lot more at play that if just the BAH can accommodate their desired monthly.
Very nice. So those of you that hear that or are watching this or hearing it on the podcast platform, Armed Forces Across America is going to pair you up with somebody that knows what they're doing and knows what they're doing in your life. And that's always been, that was one of the things that I started as a young home buyer in the military. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I went into something not pre-approved, right? And like I had the home sellers like, you're not pre-approved, get out. Right. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I just got back from deployment. I got cash, homie. Like, I'll buy this house. So, take all that out of, and you'll learn as you go, but don't try to learn on your own. All right. This Armed Forces Across America partner with Veterans Mortgage Source, right? They're going to help you. And if Corey can't help you or Corey's not licensed, I'm pretty sure Megan's got somebody else lined up in that state. Is that correct?
Yeah, and here's what I'll say as well. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to catch anything, and I don't want you to catch anything. But two of the largest platforms that people go to, actually technically three of the largest platforms that people go to when they start their search, they do offer paid lead gen for agents. So they say, hey, you sign up with us. It doesn't matter, and they do not qualify the agents. Their experience level. So they say, we don't care if you're a brand new agent, you just got licensed, you've never sold a home. We don't care if you've sold 100 homes last month. Sign up with us, pay us, and we will give you these veterans or military service members information. And then they call them and they say, hey, I see that you got pre-qualified, or I see that you're in the market for X. I'm with so-and-so. So they use that company's reputation. I'm with so-and-so. I can be your agent, essentially. And unless the general public knows how to ask, hey, how do I check your numbers? If they know what questions to ask as qualifier questions, which the vast majority of the public does not, then they don't know. They could think that they're getting a very experienced agent that was recommended by who they went through. And that person could have never sold a home before. So our biggest reason for starting this company was to make sure that that stops happening. And to make sure that the people that we're pairing them with are truly experienced and skilled in the craft, specifically navigating the military community. Because when you're adding layers like entitlements, VA guidelines, things like that, you could be a very experienced agent and have never closed a loan or a home with the VA, and it's a different experience.
All right. Hey, before I give one last question to Corey, because it's more of a personal thing, Did you want to cover anything else today that we did not cover? Or is there anything that you want to get out to the web?
Well, I'd say
for Megan. Before I go to you,
for me?
Corey, I got a question. Yeah, for you, Megan. So before I go to Corey, what's my next question?
I like nutshelling it out so people can take what they need.
Exactly. And for those of you again watching, listening, hopefully these two awesome CEOs start bombarding your feed with, little clips and ads about their business so that you can easily get to them. In the meantime, go to VeteranTrashTalk.com, and both of their website links are on there. Otherwise, scan the QR codes before the show, rewind, both their QR codes are on there, and then Corey's are on the bottom. Now, Corey, watching the news, they played a clip from the Don, right? And the Don was calling out the chairman of the Federal Reserve, right? Saying, it's his fault that mortgage rates are so high. And he's political. And the last time that he lowered interest rates was to help Kamala, right? And so he would only lower them for political reasons. All right. Do you buy that, or do we really got to wait till May until this dude's spot is up and somebody comes in that's more pro his agenda?
So it seems like the rates I think will be cut before May on the Fed side. Now, again, to emphasize, that doesn't necessarily ever translate to mortgage rates. Two different types of interest rates, short-term, long-term. But they tend to, over time, if you look at a graph of them side by side, they follow each other. It's just, it can lag in when that happens. So I can't say for sure, but it seems like there's maybe a little bit of that. I think any person that's being called names like that might just be like, you know what, we're going to just wait another month because that's my job. And kind of blame it on, oh, it's tariffs or this. But I mean, as far as, the numbers have been good. If you look at what's called restrictive policy, if the overnight interest rate is more than the rate of inflation, that is restrictive. So right now, inflation is in the mid twos, which is pretty good. And the Fed funds rate is between 4.25% and 4.5%. So we're pretty restrictive. You could easily lower rates probably 1% and still be restrictive in terms of how that math is actually what's restrictive policy versus, accommodating policy is when the rates are below inflation they're very accommodating to borrowing and enhancing the economy. So I think there'll be a cut by September of at least 25 or 50 basis points. I think the heat is really on, and you're starting to see too the dissent of members in the Fed, which you don't typically get, but they're vying for that Fed chair position. So I think they're starting to be more outspoken and kind of, get out there and say, I would make a great Fed chair. And we'll see that. And
for people who don't know what basis points are, that means going from like 6% to...
A basis point is 1/100%. So 0.01%. So 50 basis points is 0.5%.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And a couple of things I wanted to echo on Megan's thing real quick is, one, when we do the pre-approvals, when you're moving, we do it based on where you're going to be and the income you're going to have over there. So I get asked all the time, like, well, I don't have my income for over there. We'll look it up. We'll figure that out. You get pre-approved based on where you're going and where you're buying. The other thing too, from my end, why it's so important to work with Megan is I don't have an ability, even as a lender, and we do loans in 49 states. I don't have an ability to vet an agent because I have some systems to get a rough idea, but Megan has great tools to actually check agent numbers and vet them out before they're over there. And so when I have a buyer that reaches out to me, hey, we're moving, do you know anybody? My first call is always, Megan, who do you have over here? Can you find somebody that's done a lot of VA business, that's closed, enough transactions that I know we're going to send somebody there. And I say that in terms of, the other ones out there that have big VA names, they do the most VA business in the country. Keep in mind as a veteran, like the reason they advertise so much and the way that they can market so much is because when you click on their ad and you talk to them, they pair you with an agent who gives them basically half of their commission back so they can keep buying more ads and putting their name out there like, we take care of you. And so that may not always be in your best interest if you just look at the cycle. When I send a person like Megan, I need somebody, Megan doesn't pay me anything.
Right.
So I would just want to make sure that's really clear is Megan doesn't, when I refer as a lender someone to Megan, I'm not getting paid. What I want is the client to have the best experience versus a lot of the other mainland veteran mortgage places out there. The agents they're referring you to, those veteran companies, which we all know, are getting a huge legal kickback basically through referral program. That is why you're getting paired with those agents that are signed up with them.
And I do pay somebody out of everything that I make. I do pay 10% back to the service member or the veteran. So I am paying somebody, but I'm paying you guys.
Yes.
The veteran.
No, right. And that's a good point. And again, we're not giving anything away for free, right? We like the word free, but if we don't also, at least on our side of the house, we don't like the word socialism. All right. So people got to make money. They got to feed their kids. They got to eat. Right. However, there are costs to loans. There are costs to selling and buying and refining. They do their best to make it no out of pocket cost to the veteran. And if they have to lower their points, maybe that's what they do. I know Corey did that for me when I bought my house. So it was super awesome that he did that. Other than that, Megan, give us the website for the people that are listening. And then after the show, you can scan it or go pre-show and scan it or go to our website, VeteranTrashTalk.com. But Megan, give us your website one time.
Yep, it's easy. It's armedforcesacrossamerica.com.
All right. And Corey?
Go visit us, veteransmortgagesource.com.
All right. And then the QR codes are on there for Corey as well. And we'll have to get Chris to work on those for Armed Forces Across America to have up on there. They probably are. I just don't know how to click on them.
I've got them.
Other than that, yeah, we'll work on that and get that going. Again, we have a third part of this series coming up. Not sure when it's going to be, but you'll see the event. So follow the pages. It'll be the third most important show you've ever watched. Other than that, join us for the fight show on Saturday morning, sponsored by Ariel Resupply Coffee. So we'll be all hopped up on Mountain Dew, giving you the fight picks.
Yeah, David just lost some money on the last UFC.
He did, and I have the text thread. You know, we're going to bring that up on the show on Saturday. I have a text thread where he asked, "What did they say about this?" And I said, "You're wrong," and he was wrong, and our experts were right. But other than that, we'll see you guys later. And thanks, guys, for coming on and sharing all your wisdom.